Welcome back. AM 1220, FM 98.1 KHTS. Host Fred Arnold with David Cantrell and our good friend Joel Volk. We're going to talk about small business cast. Hey, I got a question for you, Joel. We were in break, and Patty, the young man that's controlling the board, starts getting really bossy with us. And Dave said, "Hey, we're the talent. Shouldn't you be catering to us?" I mean, it almost feels like we're the boss and getting yelled at by all the employees.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I want to know where my green M&Ms are, and apparently there's not. I get this small bottle of water. That's it.
Which goes to talk about the topic, Joel, which is when you're at the top, sometimes you're everybody's assistant in a way.
Well, I think is the job of the entrepreneur at a certain level is to facilitate your staff to do their job better. So to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what's expected of them and give them the proper tools and then stand back and let them go to work. And, if they get out of their lanes, help them get back in their lane. So I think that's a huge part of letting a business grow.
Yeah, and the old way of doing business, what was it? A lot of these movies where it's my way, it's the highway,
Right.
It's get your work done, it's, getting angry, it's yelling at somebody.
Right. Yeah.
That might work, but you're going to get a letter from a lawyer.
Pretty soon.
Or they're going to quit.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to be ineffective.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about tools to be more effective with the talent we have, especially when people are working from home. Let's talk about that. You mentioned something to me when we were meeting earlier today about eating lunch together.
Yeah. One of the podcasts we did about a month ago was making remote work. It's on Small Biz Cast. You can get that on iHeart Radio or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. And some of the points that were made were really interesting. First of all, it was very important to make sure you have a daily routine. Make sure that you're meeting with your staff at least once a day, preferably on the early side. Make sure that you are defining what the goals of the day are with your team. And then to have a way to be accountable for the prior meeting. So once you have the goals from yesterday, for instance, talk about them today and see how we did, and reevaluate, of course. Some companies are making sure that they meet for just social time. So they're mandating that they have lunch together, and although the company needs to pay for it because that would be considered a meeting, what it does is it gets people just sitting together and talking and getting that social interaction that we do love when we're at work. And there's something about being able to pop into someone's office and roll your eyes at something the boss says and just keep on going, which kind of brings me to the last point. And sometimes it's good to facilitate something, let the staff get together on something informal like that, but let the leadership step out so that people can just commiserate a little bit, because this is not an ideal situation. I think some of the smarter managers are not being so clock generated, just being more goal generated. But you do need to set what I mean by that is, they don't have to necessarily start at 9 and end at 5. Maybe they can, adjust their hours and be more flexible. But then I think it's super important to have those goals well defined, so you don't have somebody who just goes off the rails or, loses accountability. Accountability is key. And I think stability is key also. You have to be a constant present force of clarity to your business.
And Joel, I have a question for you. I've been telling people that this reminds me a lot of the Olympics in 1984 in Los Angeles, when back then, to help with the traffic, a lot of companies allowed their people to work from 7 to 3, 8 to 4, and 9 to 5 to kind of and then after the Olympics were done, a lot of people really enjoyed that kind of schedule, and so they were able to stay. Do you see that happening now with a lot? Do you think a lot of people are going to eventually stay home now because they're like, hey, we can work from home, we can get this done?
Yeah, I think first of all, we've already made the investments so our staff can do that. I think it's also going to change how we hire and interview our teams, because you're going to want to make sure that the people you interview can work solo and still get their jobs done. And then there's also the concern of having people in the office. There's two schools of thought. One is that offices are going to start to contract and get smaller space because we'll have people working from home and we won't need the space. You can't have bullpens full of people anymore because they can't be far enough apart to be protected. On the other hand, offices might get bigger because we need more square footage per person rather. So there's going to be some shakeout based on the type of industry someone's in or the type of business they have set up. But to be sure, the office of the future looks a little bit different than it did a month ago.
In our executive suites that we have, Oh, I'm sorry. Dave was going to say that. I'll let Dave say it.
Oh,
He's
this-
our talent.
I was just going to say that if you happen to be looking for some office space, we happen to have some for you. So, no, in all honesty, I was talking to somebody the other day about exactly that. That some of these offices, these companies have an entire floor of space, and if they start allowing their people to work from home, they're only going to need a quarter of that space. Then maybe again, now you start looking at executive suites and things like that to really lower that cost.
There was a friend I was talking to at lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little barbecue at a distance at lunch with 2 or 3 of our employees that actually come in, and one of the tenants in one of our spaces said they just gave up, and I hope this is the right number, but it was like 100 or a couple hundred spaces in Santa Monica that they were spending $20,000 a month.
It's crazy
on parking.
Yeah.
And wow, I
Yeah.
mean, that is a lot of money. One thing that I think we're going to find, Joel, is people still like the productivity of an office. So does that mean everybody has small offices, but one of the windows is glass, so they can open it up and feel like it's open, but a smaller space, almost like you would see at like an 8x8 or just a small office. But it still feels like you're in your own space, right?
Right.
And you wonder, is that going to be the new trend, Joel? Or is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be cubicles that are all cubed in, all glassed in, almost like you're at this? I don't know. It's interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, to be sure. I'm in a think tank group that we talk about offices of the future, and I can tell you the last 10 years or so, a lot of offices have been designed to be similar to the environment you have at a Starbucks, where you have open space and collaborative space, and you can be elbow to elbow with the person next to you. And if you have your earbuds in, it means that you need privacy and need to drill down. If you have your earbuds out, it's kind of a social cue saying that you're open to collaborate and discuss your projects. And can you imagine that now? That was the trend. That was the trend of anything new for anything creative in the last 10 years. And now that's all going to have to be redesigned to have protections in place. And it's all going to be redesigned to have enough physical space so your staff feels safe. Yeah. And so it's going to be, I think every industry is going to, every business rather is going to have to redefine how it wants to move forward. And I think a big part of the fallout is going to be the commercial real estate space. It's going to take a big hit, and I think it'll take a long time for it to shake out, to get to settle down to be what it is.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. Joel, those who want to reach out to you and listen to your podcast, can you share how they can?
Sure. It's smallbizcast.com. There's a place where our episodes are, and we'd love it if you would subscribe and also go to our Facebook page and our Instagram page. Guess what it's called? Small Bizcast. And it's a lot of fun doing it, and I really appreciate being on your show. It's outstanding talking to you both.
Joel, ladies and gentlemen, Joel Volk, thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Have a good one, Joel. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
You've been listening to AM 1220, FM 98.1 KHTS, watching online, Facebook Live feed on KHTS and hometownstation.com. Joe's Fred Arnold and David Cantrell on a special edition of the Financial Hour.